Have you ever wondered why fasting seems to draw us closer to God? What is it about this ancient practice that invites divine attention? And are there pitfalls we must avoid to ensure our fasts are truly pleasing to Him? Let's dive deep into the spiritual significance of fasting and uncover the mistakes we should steer clear of. Spiritual power of fasting. Fasting is a profound act of humility. In Psalm 35:13, David says, "I put on sackcloth and humbled myself with fasting." Similarly, in Psalm 69:10, he repeats, "I humbled myself with fasting." This self-denial reminds us of our dependence on God. By abstaining from food and other comforts, we acknowledge that God is our ultimate sustenance and provision. This humble posture invites God's presence and favor into our lives. When we willingly give up our daily comforts, we are reminded of our vulnerability and our need for God. It's a time to focus on our spiritual needs rather than our physical ones. This humility is attractive to God because it shows our genuine reliance on Him. Intensifying prayer. Fasting enhances the power of our prayers. In Daniel 9:3, Daniel sought the Lord by prayer and petitions with fasting. This combined effort of fasting and prayer creates a spiritual synergy, making our prayers more fervent and focused. It helps us align our hearts with God's will, making our intercessions more effective. When we fast, our minds become clearer and our spirits more attuned to the voice of God. This clarity and focus make our prayers more powerful and effective. It's like turning up the volume on our spiritual connection with God. Breaking strongholds. Fasting has the power to break spiritual strongholds. Isaiah 58:6 says, "Is not this the kind of fasting I have chosen, to loose the chains of injustice and untie the cords of the yoke?" Jesus also emphasized this in Mark 9:29, stating that some spiritual battles require both prayer and fasting. This practice helps us overcome stubborn spiritual obstacles and achieve breakthroughs. Fasting intensifies our spiritual authority and focuses our prayers against demonic forces that may be hindering our progress. It's a spiritual weapon that can bring freedom and deliverance. Demonstrating obedience and discipline. In Matthew 6:16-18, Jesus says, "When you fast, do not look somber as the hypocrites do." Notice he says, "when" and not "if." This implies that fasting is expected of His followers. By fasting, we demonstrate our obedience and discipline, qualities that are highly valued in our spiritual walk. Obedience to God's commands, including fasting, shows our commitment to Him and our willingness to follow His guidance. Discipline, on the other hand, helps us develop self-control and resilience in our spiritual journey. Mistakes to avoid while fasting. Fasting is a private matter between you and God. In Matthew 6:16-18, Jesus warns against fasting to gain attention. If you fast to show off or appear super spiritual, your efforts are in vain. God rewards those who fast in secret, genuinely seeking Him rather than human approval. In today's social media-driven world, it's tempting to share every aspect of our lives. However, fasting is one area where discretion is vital. Bragging about your fast or seeking validation from others diminishes its spiritual significance. Keep your fasting private and let it be a time of personal communion with God. Dieting instead of fasting. True fasting is not merely avoiding certain foods, but abstaining from all food for a period. If you substitute meals with other foods, you're dieting, not fasting. The goal is to humble the flesh and focus on God, not just avoid specific foods. For instance, replacing meals with smoothies or snacks misses the point of fasting. The essence of fasting is to deny the body and direct that energy towards spiritual growth. If health concerns prevent a complete fast, consider a modified fast approved by a medical professional, but ensure it still challenges your flesh and spirit. Using fasting to pressure God. Fasting should not be seen as a way to force God's hand. You cannot compel God to act against His will. David fasted for his child's life in 2 Samuel 12, but God did not change His mind. Fasting should be an act of humility and submission, not a tool to manipulate God. Approaching fasting as a bargaining chip or a way to twist God's arm is misguided. God's plans and timing are perfect, and fasting should be about aligning ourselves with His will, not forcing Him to align with ours. Trust that God's wisdom and love will guide you, and use fasting to seek His guidance and strength. Making decisions while fasting. Extended fasting can leave you physically and mentally weakened. Avoid making major decisions during this time. Satan tempted Jesus to make decisions while fasting, but Jesus resisted. Wait until you are clear-headed and stable before making important choices. Becoming irritable. Fasting can make you irritable, but it's essential to maintain a Christ-like attitude. Isaiah 58 emphasizes living justly with others while fasting. If hunger makes you short-tempered, seek God's help to remain patient and loving. Obsessing over food. Fasting is about focusing on God, not counting down the minutes until you can eat again. Avoid obsessing over food. Engage in prayer, scripture reading, and other spiritual activities to keep your mind on God. Using fasting as a quick fix for sin. Fasting should not be a temporary fix for ongoing sin. It should be a time to seek lasting spiritual change. Address underlying issues and strive for long-term transformation rather than a quick purification ritual. Ignoring physical health. While fasting, it's crucial to stay hydrated and rest properly. Consult a doctor if you have health concerns. Neglecting your physical needs can be counterproductive and harmful. Take care of your body to sustain the spiritual benefits of fasting. Fasting is meant to strengthen us spiritually, not harm us physically. Ensure you're drinking plenty of water and getting adequate rest. If you have health issues, consult a healthcare professional before starting a fast. Remember that caring for your body is part of honoring God during your fast. Fasting in unbiblical ways. Stick to biblical principles when fasting. Avoid extreme or harmful practices. Fasting should focus on prayer and spiritual discipline, not rituals or self-harm. Keep it simple and aligned with scriptural teachings. Some practices, like extreme self-denial or rituals borrowed from non-Christian traditions, can be harmful or unbiblical. Fasting should be a time of seeking God through prayer, scripture, and quiet reflection. Avoid practices that detract from the true purpose of fasting. Failing to break your fast wisely. After fasting, ease back into eating with simple foods like broth, fruits, and vegetables. Avoid heavy, fatty, or sugary foods that can overwhelm your system. Gradually reintroduce regular meals to avoid health issues. Breaking a fast correctly is just as important as the fast itself. Start with light, easily digestible foods to allow your body to readjust. Overloading your system with heavy or rich foods can cause discomfort or health problems. Take your time and listen to your body's needs as you transition back to regular eating. Fasting holds immense spiritual power, but it must be approached correctly to honor God and avoid pitfalls. Remember to fast with humility, focus on prayer, and take care of your physical health. If you found these insights helpful, please subscribe for more in-depth Bible teachings and spiritual guidance. Thank you for watching.